This is the Ohio AgNet from the voice you know at the News You Trust studio, sponsored by BASF and Zetavo Soybeans, transforming the approach to soybean seed decision making with trailblazing innovation and quality without compromise. I'm Ty Higgins. Heading down to Lucasville today for the midday broadcast at the Scioto County Fair with Local Connection Ag. This is their second stop of the county fair tour and another check presentation going to the Scioto County Junior Fair Board. If you're there, make sure and stop by and say hey. The commercial cattle show continues in Ohio State Fair tradition. Summer temps make a comeback and discovering new uses for soybeans. This morning's news feed is delivered by Eberts Field Seeds, proven local seed performance for Ohio farmers. It's time to start planting Eberts. Call 937-473-2521 or visit online at ebertsseeds.com. One of the longest-running traditions of the Ohio State Fair is the Commercial Cattle Show, sponsored by United Producers. I was there for the show on Saturday afternoon and visited with John Merrihew. He's Vice President of Communications with United Producers.
This show gives an opportunity for those kids to show cattle that don't necessarily show cattle. They bring pens of 3 of their commercial cattle here to the State Fair, and then from this show, they go on to Tyson tomorrow to be judged on a carcass evaluation as well. These cattle do not get worked like a show cattle would, so they could be a little bit wild. They're not used to being around people, so these kids need to know what they're getting themselves into when they come. But this is one of the oldest commercial cattle shows in the United States, so it's something that the Ohio State Fair has always wanted to keep going and something United Producers wanted to facilitate as well. A lot of kids want to exhibit at this show just because they grew up on a commercial operation. They might not necessarily have the time to go to their local county fair with a show animal, so this gives them an opportunity to come and show their cattle in a different way. A lot of these kids that we've shown today, their families are part of the Ohio Cattlemen's Association, so they pride themselves in raising good commercial cattle, not only the reputation for themselves, but the state in general.
You can watch the video from this year's Commercial Cattle Show at the Ohio State Fair on Ohio AgNet TV on YouTube. There's a new Ohio AgNet podcast out as well. With the expansion of Arable Labs to Shawnee State University, the Ohio Soybean Council will have even greater opportunities to find new uses for soybeans grown right here in Ohio. Learn more about the research being done by Barry McGraw and his team to add value to soybean farmers' bottom line.
We're talking to some large ag companies that already process large amounts of soy throughout the world, right? And they're kind of asking us, or at least we're approaching them with ideas of what could be the next thing they could produce, right? For example, can we create a whole industry, on your campus that's producing? So not only are they processing soybeans, but they're also producing, soy-based products right there on campus. So some of those type of discussions and business approaches are fascinating. That's not where we were arable 5 or 6 years ago. We were thinking about one product at a time, one top technology at a time. And now that we're getting some attention from some of these large companies, we're really thinking about one industry at a time. Can we create an industry? Because the market's there. Bio-based products only consumes about 5% of materials throughout the world, right? 95% is still utilizing petroleum. So can you kind of copycat or duplicate those petroleum industries, but using soy? And how do you get there? You're going to have some partnerships with these large companies to do that.
Plus, what's the current state of the farmland auction market in Ohio? We also talk about that on the podcast with Kevin Miller with Oak Ridge Realty and Auction Company. He talks about whether the land auction route is the right fit for all landowners looking to sell.
2 years ago, the last couple of years, I would say, auction was the way to go. 100%. If you had a decent farm, you wanted to auction it off, drive that excitement and get those bidders come to the table for competing bids. But now what we're starting to see is if you have a really nice farm, auction can still be the way to go. But if it's something, maybe it's an irregular shape or maybe not quite a good enough size, or maybe the soils are a little bit subpar, then we want to start thinking about that private treaty, and maybe we need a little bit more marketing time in order to get that farm sold.
More of my conversations with Kevin Miller with Oak Ridge Realty and Barry McGraw with Arable Labs is on the new Ohio AgNet podcast online, the audio and video version at ohioagnet.com. Let's get a check of the forecast now with Ryan Martin, brought to you by Seed Genetics Direct, the #1 fastest growing and largest Ohio-based independent seed company.
We've got sunshine and warmer temperatures for sure. Humidity values are going to be creeping up over the next few days, but to start the week, I'm looking at good drying here across today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. By the time we get to Wednesday afternoon, humidity will be closer to an oppressive range, and that's just ahead of a frontal boundary that's going to try and come in and get us a little more soggy over the finish to the week. That front slowly moving through the upper Midwest, central, western Corn Belt over the next few days, and that slowness is going to be something that I think can work to our advantage in terms of moisture. Now, if you got too much moisture the past few days, you're not going to like to hear this, but I'm looking for on again, off again rains through most of Thursday, all of Friday, and they could even linger into the first half of Saturday. All told, anywhere from a half to 1.5 inches. I'm meteorologist Ryan Martin.
Thank you, Ryan. We're covering the open shows at this year's Ohio State Fair. Joel Norwood has an update there.
The Ohio State Fair rolls along in Columbus, and so do the open livestock shows, which is what we're featuring in a video series going on now at ohioagnet.com. And in our third and final part of that series, which is brought to you by Farm Credit Mid-America, we talk with the Copeland family from Western Logan County. Courtney Copeland is the latest generation to take on the tradition of the Ohio State Fair.
Outside of the show ring, I really enjoy lambing season, especially with all the different breeds of sheep that we have. It's kind of fun just to see what happens and how those genetics work. And you never know what you're gonna get, especially having 7 different breeds. My favorite breed and my bread and butter is the Columbias. Showing at State Fair in the open shows kind of where I started showing. I can remember walking in the ring when I was like 4 years old, holding on to the end of the halter and following along whoever was holding the sheep at the time. And then about 2 years before I reached 4-H age, I got my first show ewe, and her name was Belle, if anybody wanted to know. And I absolutely loved her, and I showed her 1 year as a lamb, and then I told my dad that I wanted a pretty dark purple banner like somebody else had won that year. And then the very next year I had won my first dark purple banner at the Ohio State Fair.
Find that full video and the entire highlights from the Ohio State Fair online at ohioagnet.com. Several of the open sheep shows going on today at the State Fair, as well as the Youth Breeding Gilt show going on over in the Hog Barn. For the Ohio AgNet, I'm Joel Norwood reporting.
Thank you, Joel. As soon as the Ohio State Fair's over, we're hitting the road for this year's Ohio Crop Tour, brought to you by Field Leader, a project of the Ohio Soybean Council. We'll get a preview of this year's crop tour in today's featured audio after this on the Ohio AgNet.
The Ohio State Fair has more of the fair you love.
It's the best day together with more to do. Bring the whole crew for the classics you love, plus even more to explore, taste, and experience with brand new buildings, attractions, and more.
More of the fair you love. The Ohio State Fair, July 29th through August 9th, 2026.
Plan your day and get tickets at ohiostatefair.com.
Welcome back to the Ohio AgNet. I'm Ty Higgins. The 2026 Ohio Crop Tour starts 1 week from today. With a preview, here's Dusty Sonnenberg.
Joining me today is Dr. Taylor Dill. Taylor is the Director of Research with the Ohio Soybean Council. Taylor, it's almost that time of the year. The annual crop tour that is sponsored by Field Leader takes place August the 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th. And you and I are going to be on the first leg that heads to the northern part of the state, taking in 10 counties on Monday and 10 counties on Tuesday. It'll turn into then the first of the stops for the hometown tour, August the 11th in Crawford County. And then the crop tour continues the next 2 dates coming up on the 12th and 13th. That's that Wednesday and Thursday, as Joel Norwood will be leading a group with Greg LaBarge in the southern part of the state and capture another 10 counties each day, and then they'll wrap that up at Bluegrass Farms with the second stop of the hometown tour. Taylor, it's interesting as we take a look, though, this year. Variability seems to be the word that most people are telling me when it comes to what do the crops look like, what was the planting season like, what was the growing season like to this point. Just a lot of variability. What have you seen?
I have heard and seen much of the same. A lot of planting date variability throughout the state, a lot of replanting variability throughout the state. So maybe the South and North caught up to each other just a little bit just because of the amount of replanting that had to happen. So on this tour, I'm really curious about maybe some of that northern variability and what really stage our crops are in at this point, as they were more delayed in planting, and we've had a relatively rainy summer. So from what I've seen through the state, most things have recovered from any type of bad variability from the spring within how much rain we had gotten in the spring. So I'm very curious to see where we're at, especially up there.
Yeah, I would agree. It's interesting. It's been a season where there hasn't been extreme stressors. I've not heard of any terrible crop conditions from that standpoint. And really, I haven't heard much about any disease outbreaks or severe insect pressure, too. So I'm curious to see, are these fields as clean as it sounds like they are? Or maybe we're right on the front end of that by the time we get out there, we'll start to see some of that pressure emerging.
Yeah, I think that's curious as well. I think we've had a really mild June and July compared to the previous couple of years. So I'm anxious to see if we're missing any pressure from this time period.
Well, Taylor, you've participated in the crop tour in the past. Each year is a little bit different. As you recall back, what were some of the takeaways you had?
Well, one, I was mostly in the beans. One takeaway, Ohio can grow very pretty beans at various planting dates. I believe I was there in 2023, so we had a really good year that year. Just how great a bean crop can look. And on the corn side, how hit or miss disease pressure can be, especially in corn. Some places can fill up with tar spots immediately, and then some places can be really clean within a 2-county range. I think how spotty the disease is, especially in corn, can be really surprising.
Taylor and I, again, will be on the first leg of the crop tour. We will have 2 other individuals with us and then 4 folks heading south. The tour begins coming up a week from today on Monday, August the 10th. And 11th, that's the North Tour, the South Tour, the 12th and 13th. And again, both of those culminating with the hometown tour stops, August the 11th at Reinhardt Farms and August 13th at Fayette County at Bluegrass Farms. You can be a part of those hometown tours by going to soyohio.org/hometown tour and get registered to hear from Taylor and myself as well as the other scouts firsthand. Taylor, thanks so much for your time and look forward to seeing you out in the field.
Sounds great. Thank you, Dusty.
Reporting for the Ohio AgNet, I'm Dusty Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Dusty. Market numbers and analysis next on the Ohio AgNet.
The Southwest Ohio Corn Growers Agronomy Field Day will be held Tuesday, August 18th, starting at 9 a.m. at the Fayette County Airport. Hear from experts like Harley Jansen, Tad Nicholson, Jed Bauer, Dr. Chad Lee, David Marison, Robert Moore, Dr. Horacio Nicora Lopez, and Dr. Oscar Ortez on the latest in precision ag, corn production, and farm succession planning. Please enjoy free breakfast and lunch, plus a chance to win one of 2 $500 gift cards for Corn Growers members. Please see details at fayette.osu.edu.
Looking for heavy equipment but don't know where to buy? Purple Wave Auction has you covered. Always online and always no reserve. It's your destination for construction or ag equipment ready to work. We even sell semis, trailers, and fleet equipment for your operation. Best part? It's free to join. Head to purplewave.com. That's purplewave.com. Sign up for a free account and start bidding today. Purple Wave Auction, the easiest and most straightforward way to buy and sell equipment.
Welcome back to the Ohio AgNet. I'm Ty Higgins, and this morning's market analysis is brought to you by Louis Dreyfus Company in Upper Sandusky. Opening to receive soybeans starting September 1. Ohio farmers plan to get your RFID tag the week of August 24th from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Find out more by calling 419-731-7100. Here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets finished the week last week on a lower note, but probably the number one story was the sharp fall off in the wheat markets. Now, folks, this is what happens when you have a headline-dominated trade, which is what we saw all week last week. Headlines, headlines, headlines. The war is on. The war is off. These people are playing nice. These people aren't. Weather, it's not as bad as we thought. Oh, my gosh, it's awful. Those were the headlines whipsawing around all over the place. Friday, the wheat market fell sharply because Ukraine, as it turns out, is now starting to explore alternative export routes. Well, duh, we've lived this game before when it came to oil in the Middle East with the Strait of Hormuz. This is what happens. Ukraine President Zelensky will be talking about or submitting new export routes here this week. There's been a modest amount of movement so far out of that region. It could accelerate both corn and wheat. We'll pay attention to that here in the next few days. I'm Ryan Martin.
Thank you, Ryan. We are lower overnight with corn for September down 3 3/4 at $4.37 a bushel. December $4.60 1/4 down 3 3/4 as well. August beans 5 3/4 to the downside at $11.66 1/4. New crop November $11.80 a bushel down 7 1/2, and September wheat down 3 cents at $6.36 1/4. After Friday's trade, August live cattle up 52 points at $231.75. September feeders $343.77 up 132, and lean hogs for August $98.85 up 42 cents. For the Ohio AgNet, I'm Ty Higgins. We'll see you down the road.